All right, welcome back to the Badass Lifter podcast. Today we're going to be talking about self-doubt and how it affects new and beginner lifters from becoming the strong, confident lifter that I know they can be. And this episode is about making sure that your self-doubt doesn't hold you back. Now, this is super common. I think a lot of people will do training they don't actually want to do, or won't start at all, or won't give their training 100% effort or the effort they should be giving because of self-doubt and not believing that they can become a strong, confident lifter. We're going to get into why this is, how to, make sure your self-doubt doesn't hold you back in your strength training. But there's just a quick thing I want to mention first. I've had a lot of people who have messaged me asking me not about strength training or like me training them. I've had that as well, but I've also had people who want to be taught how to make their own strength training. They want to be able to make their own workouts. Maybe they want training as well, but they, at the end of the day, would love to know how to make their own workouts for themselves. So I'm asking you if you're interested in that. I've had some people already reach out, and I'm going to make like a mini lecture series on for people who want to know the basics of strength training programming. And if your goal is to be able to make your own strength training workouts for yourself, let me know. You can send me a message on any of my social medias or on my website. If you want to learn how to make your own strength training, if you want to know the basics of that, I am going to start teaching some people who are interested. So let me know if you want to learn more about that or if you have any questions. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Now, getting into the topic of the podcast. So first off, I think we need to be real about self-doubt. So a lot of self-doubt is not just strength training specific. It's not just about the gym. It affects other aspects of life, and the root cause can be not related to the gym at all. I would love to help your self-doubt problems in all aspects of your life and totally remove that. This would make it like just the best podcast episode ever. That's out of my scope. That's, psychology, therapist, talk to them about that, like why you feel that way in like many aspects of your life. So this episode is not going to be about how to like conquer self-doubt and you'll never doubt yourself again. Like that's kind of not what I don't have the skills for that. This is not this kind of podcast. What I am going to do is give you tips to make sure that your self-doubt doesn't hold you back from becoming a strong, confident lifter. So we acknowledge it's there. We acknowledge that it's a problem. We're not going to solve this problem, but we're going to make sure that you still become a confident lifter, almost like in spite of your self-doubt issues. So first thing I wanted to clarify, and if you do have self-doubt issues in all aspects of your life, like that's going to be something that you're going to want to listen to a therapist, psychology, etc., and then kind of go that route. But I do have tips for you on how to conquer the self-doubt, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. First one is I want you to reframe negative thoughts. So I think self-doubt really creeps up when something bad happens in the training. You missed a workout, or the workout didn't go as well as you expected it would go. And that's kind of the moment where you're like, oh yeah, I am a failure. And the self-doubt really creeps in. And you take that way harder than you should. And I want you to take this moment to kind of reframe those negative thoughts. So instead of, thinking like, oh, this workout went terribly, I'm a bad lifter, I'm not going to be a confident lifter, this isn't going to happen for me. Reframe it to be like, this workout didn't go well. Let me understand why it didn't go well. What are the reasons for it? And let's see if I can find solutions for it. Sometimes your workout went poorly because you just didn't prepare before, whether it was sleep or eating enough, or you needed some questions answered about your training. There's lots of reasons why the workout didn't go well. And sometimes there is no reason. Sometimes it just feels off. And then maybe that's you think about like, I had a bad workout today, but a lot of my other workouts have been going well. Maybe this is just an off day, and then go from there. Like reframe those negative thoughts to be constructive, and also look at the bigger picture. Are you failing across the board? Probably not. We're going to talk about that as well. But just because one bad thing happened or a couple bad things happen doesn't mean that you're failing in every aspect of your strength training. So why are we focusing on this one part that's not going well when we can just focus on the other parts. And I think when people have a lot of self-doubt, they prioritize a lot of the negative and almost none of the positive, where like the positive is just like, it's almost like neutral, and as opposed to like the negative thoughts, which like mean everything. So I don't want you to do that. Reframe the negative thoughts to be like, okay, this is a moment where I can like learn to be better, and then go from there. I think that's like going to be, the best answer. The second one is setting realistic goals, big and small. So you have a bigger goal, which is why you're in the gym, and you set smaller goals along the way so that you're accomplishing small achievable things along the way. Because if your goal is, well, I want to deadlift 200 pounds, we don't want it to be that every workout you don't do that is a failure. You want to set small goals along the way, because that also helps you acknowledge when you're winning. And when you have those self-doubt issues, you can also look at those small goals that you've achieved as successes as well. So it's not just, what am I doing wrong? It's also about like, what am I doing right? And you can compare the two. And then small goals can be like, you got all your workouts done for the week. You lifted heavier this week than you did last week. If you're not sure if you've gotten stronger, this is where I think like tracking workouts comes in handy, because if you don't think you're getting stronger, you can always look back at like, well, how much was I lifting 3 months ago? And, if it's more weight now than it was before, numbers don't lie. And I think like that's something that's really helpful when you have that, you don't quite believe in yourself, that you can see like, oh, I have made progress. I am moving towards the goal that I wanted to achieve, and I can see it in the numbers. And I think like that is super, super helpful. It's also to help keep track of like how many workouts you've gotten done. And like, you can see that, on those moments where you don't believe in yourself, you can see like, yeah, but I got all these workouts done now, and I'm more consistent with my training. And, that you can weigh the pros and the cons. And if you keep track of the wins, that's going to be important. And I think this comes to like the last point I have on this, which is like celebrating your progress. I think it's good to take time to acknowledge and celebrate your progress, like no matter how small. Now, taking your time could be as little as like just telling yourself like, oh yeah, that was a really good thing. Maybe if you're working with a trainer, telling them what you accomplished, or telling a friend or someone to, boost your confidence in the process and like help you acknowledge this win. It's nice to acknowledge wins together with somebody. And this is where like having like a trainer or like a workout buddy comes in handy, where like they can celebrate the wins with you. And then so when you're feeling, you have that self-doubt that's creeping in and holding you back from being as strong as you can possibly be, celebrating this kind of helps to bring another side. And you'll notice there's kind of a pattern here where when you feel down, look at the things that are also positive as like an overarching theme of this episode, I think is going to be really, really helpful, because very rarely is someone's training experience like top to bottom, I'm failing everything, I don't feel stronger, I haven't gotten any workouts. That's very, very rare if we're being honest with ourselves. This is going to bring to my next point, which is surrounding yourself with positivity. Like, I think this really, really matters. I think it takes a very unique person to be optimistic in a world of friends that are not optimistic. I think you have to be a very, very special person for that not to affect you. I don't think I'm that person. I don't think I know someone who's like that. So in your journey, like when you're talking to people about your training, are you going to talk to the person who always finds a way to be negative or always finds a reason to give up? Or are you going to tell the person who's like always there for you, is going to be excited about your wins, is going to tell you what a great job you're doing? Sounds like the second person is going to be way better for your journey, especially if you're like already concerned about failing and have a lot of self-doubt. Finding that positive, supportive person is going to be helpful. Again, workout buddy, trainer, maybe just a friend who doesn't live with you, but like they're supportive, whatever that might be. You know your circle of people better than I do. But like finding that positive person, I think is really important, because if you have only negativity, I think it's hard to be positive in your journey. And it's just that much easier to not believe in yourself as this process is going on. What was I going to say? So to summarize, reframe negative thoughts into positive ones, or at least constructive ones. You want to set realistic goals, both the big goal that you're reaching towards and the small goals to get there. Celebrate your progress and take time to acknowledge that, whether that's just telling yourself what a great job you did, or, talking to someone else about it and like you guys can share it together. And surround yourself with positivity. Find the optimistic, supportive person who's going to tell you what a great job you're doing, as opposed to the negative, pessimistic person who kind of like always finds a way to be negative. That person's not going to be helpful in this conversation. I remember that this takes time. I think like while giving these points, I totally understand that not everyone is going to like do all these 4 things and then all their self-doubt is gone. Okay. That's not, these are helpful, but it's going to take time. It's going to take practice. The more that you do these things, the easier it becomes in the future. And also, if you forget to do these things in the future, like that doesn't mean that you've given up on the steps that we're talking about. That happens too. Work on these as much as you can. Be okay with being imperfect. And, if you're consistent with your training, if you have a good program, if you're improving on your form, you will get stronger. And I want you to believe that like you have the ability to do so. I believe in you. I want you to know that you can become stronger, and this self-doubt is not going to stop you from that happening. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Badass Lifter podcast.